Good evening and welcome to our 2023 Meet the Candidates Night. We are pleased to welcome the following candidates: Nathaniel McCarthy, Ro Avila, Kim Shepard, James Tucker Jr. My name is Tyler Brannigan, representing the Delaware Academy Speech and Debate Team. This year we are honored to have 4 candidates competing for 2 seats on the Delaware Academy Board of Education. Our candidates are seated in the order that they will appear on the upcoming ballot. Each candidate's personal biography can be found in the annual budget newsletter. Extra copies are available to you tonight. For tonight's event, we will have the opportunity to hear from each of our candidates adhering to the following guidelines. Each candidate will be asked the same question and we will rotate who speaks first. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and to help with timing, I'll provide the following time signals. When you see one finger, you have 1 minute left. When you see a C shape, you have 30 seconds left, and a closed fist means your time is up, and we ask that you conclude your sentence. As time allows, we will ask up to 6 questions, then moving on to closing statements, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to provide a closing statement. So, our first questions, we will begin with Mr. McCarthy, and we would like you to tell us about yourself and what made you interested in serving our school on the Board of Education.
Check. Thank you. Thank you for that question, and thank you to the Speech and Debate Club for hosting this, and of course thank Delaware Academy for also having us and providing us this opportunity. What made me want to run for school board? You know, I look back at my time in high school and I really cherish it. It was a time full of growth and opportunity. Little did I know that these opportunities provided to me were because of the school board. Men and women sat around a table unbeknownst to me and made decisions and provided me with opportunities that I would have for the rest of my life. So as I grew and had children and became involved in my community, I said to myself, what can I do? And I thought back to those times in high school, and I want to make sure that the school board here continues to provide those same opportunities to our children. Make sure that they give the administrators the tools that they need to make this school a successful place, to give children both opportunities inside the classroom and outside the classroom. I also want to make sure that we pick people that can see into the future, 5, 10, and 20 years, to make sure that we remain competitive and remain in the cutting edge of the society that we are living in. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Avila, the same question to you, would you like me to repeat it?
No, I got it, thanks. Thank you, Tyler, for hosting us along with Delaware Academy, Mrs. Zimmerman, and Board of Education. Why did I want to run for the board? Well, I kind of put it in my bio. It's really, I think, the last hat for me to wear. I think I wrote it in the bio, I've worn many hats throughout my time at DA. Teacher, parent, coach. I did way back when I coached modified girls soccer and modified girls volleyball. That both were a great treat. Countless committees I've been on over the years, and I've also been the teachers union president for 7 years, and including that I negotiated a couple of contracts. I think in all those endeavors, I encountered the board, and very often they were very, very supportive of whether it was international night or coaching or whatever it might be. This gives me the opportunity to kind of see the board from the inside and not the outside. I constantly want to learn and grow. It's part of, I guess, who I am as a teacher. And wearing this last hat, I think, will allow me to do that. And so that's why I'm sitting here. And I never looked at you. Did I go over time? Was that okay?
125.
Oh, perfect.
Sorry. Ms. Shepard.
I am currently a school teacher at Oneonta Middle School. I've spent my entire career in education. My oldest son is a graduate from Delaware Academy. I currently have a 13-year-old in 8th grade at DA. My husband owns and operates Shepherd Repair on Main Street in Delhi. I feel like, kind of similar to Ms. Avila in that the different roles that I am or have, I think allow me to represent so many different constituents as a parent of a current student at Delaware Academy, as a taxpayer, as an educator. I would take it very seriously, all those roles, and they all play a part in who I am, which would be also representation, on the school board. I currently am on the school board. I'm just now completing my first term, which is 3 years, and I decided to run again for many of the same reasons I did the first time, was just to be able to, add whatever I can, and I think the experiences that I have make me a good fit to be on the board. And I think I would describe myself as a very honest, hardworking person, and I would carry those traits to this position. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Tucker.
I am a graduate of Delaware Academy, and I have 2 daughters that one has graduated, one is graduating this year. I wanted to be part of the school district in one way or another, just to, when they're in school, just to be aware of what's going on and possibly some of the decision-making processes that could affect their future. I believe in giving back to the community, and this is one way that I can do that. I sit on the Town of Meredith Planning Board also, and enjoy just being part of what's going on in the community. I am a current board member, and my term is up, obviously this year, and I would like to continue with what I've been working on and learning. It takes several years to really get a good grasp everything a board member has to do, and I think I would be a productive board member with a second term.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Avila, you will begin with our second question. And the question is, Board of Education members are frequently faced with controversial topics and unpopular decisions. How will you respond when faced with these topics, both in public board meetings and when asked about them in the community?
I guess I would continue to do, at least in the public, what I already do, and I think it's one of the most important responsibilities of a board member in the community, and that's to listen. I have lots of people in lots of different circles, whether it's the bagel shop or Facebook Messenger or whatever, they reach out and they ask me questions, they want to tell me what they think, and that's happened for years. And it's important to listen. The second community responsibility of a board member, I believe, is to ask questions. When people approach you and share their opinions about a variety of topics or ask you questions, it's important also to ask questions of the community. Just to hear their point of view, to fully understand what their concerns are. Because sometimes those concerns are layered underneath emotion. And once you can pull back that emotion, you get to find out really what the struggle is or what the concern is, or whatever. And that's really what I would do out in the community. In a public session of a board meeting, again, it's important to listen to the community, but it's also important, I think, for each board member to have their own voice, even if it's a dissenting voice of 6 other people. And I think that debate, diversity of thought is healthy for any school board. And if lots of people know me and they know that I'm going to tell them what I think is to be true or what my opinion is, and I'll tell you why. And it's okay if we don't disagree, that's okay. So that's what I do.
Ms. Shepherd.
Okay, so what's interesting is my 3 years on the board started during COVID. And you want to talk about controversy? There was a lot. There was a lot of requirements and mandates coming down from the state during that time period that, to be honest with you, I wasn't 100% on board with either. But, you know, when we're a state institution funded by the state, you pretty much have to do what they tell you to do for fear of lack of funding. So I think the most important thing is, as a board member, to be very informed myself and to, as a board, not just an individual member, but as a board, I think it's our responsibility to do the best job we can to inform the community and all the constituents on whatever the issue is or issues are. I don't think you can ever get around controversy. Everybody's, that's America. That's what makes it so great that, you know, everybody's allowed to have their opinion and vote how they want or whatever. But I think, you know, we really need to be transparent as a board, open to communication, and have as many involvements with the community, and, like I said, inform them of the facts and the process the whole way, and whatever the issues are, to get feedback from students, staff, community, and the same as Ms. Ahmed said, really listen to what people have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker.
Yes, we have had, in the past 3 years, we've had many issues that have come up that we've had to make difficult decisions on. We try to make the best decision we can based on the information that's given to us. Like Kim had just said, during the COVID years, there was a lot of decisions we had to make that were really made for us by the governor and the powers that be, and we had to enforce those policies or chance losing state aid. And it was a very, very unpopular time. So we made the best as we could with what we had to work with. And it's going to continue to be that way moving forward. I'm aware of that. And, you know, it's something I'm willing to accept and be part of.
Thank you. Controversial matters are inevitable, especially when you're serving on a board. You're one of so many voices. I think it's important that you keep an open mind. You know, I would be remiss if I didn't admit that when I started coming to board meetings, I didn't come to the same conclusion that the board came to. But only after I sat and listened and heard where the board was coming from, I didn't always agree with it, but I understood why they made the decisions that they made. I learned it's not always the perfect solution, but maybe the best solution with the set of circumstances that they're being given. Respect is also extremely important on a board. Respect breeds trust, and you know, I think that good leaders are trusted and certainly much more efficient. I pledged that I would always be respectful on tough issues. I would listen with an open mind, and I would give each person consideration and keep that open mind. I think it's always important that board members serve with humility, authenticity, and courage. Tough issues require courage, not only to express your thoughts, but to admit when you're wrong, to admit when you don't know the answer, get the right people around the table to make the best decision that you can with the circumstances that you're presented. Having that humility to admit when you don't know is the most important thing I think we can take out of this tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Shepherd, we will begin with our third question. And that question is, name the top 3 things that make a successful school, and how will you demonstrate pride in our school?
I think probably the most important thing is to establish a vision and mission for your school, and that should really drive everything that is done at the school or decision making. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, of course. Name the top 3 things that make a successful school, and how will you demonstrate pride in our school?
Okay, so I think definitely division, mission, and following that through is the first one. Second thing would be to, involve everybody as often as you can in decisions or, like I said before, information and things like that. One thing I'm really proud of that we've done this year is have a student representative on our school board. And there's 2 of them, they've both done an amazing job of representing the student body and getting their feedback to us. So I think that's another very important thing. The third thing would be, I guess keeping student achievement and the programs, academic and extracurricular at the forefront that really are there for students to help them exceed to the best they can academically and in extracurricular activities. And pride, the pride in this district is amazing. I don't know, I know it's a huge focus here. I don't know how to talk about improving that, but I know it's very evident in our district.
Thank you. And Mr. Tucker.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah. Name the top 3 things that make a successful school, and the second part of the question is, how will you demonstrate pride in our school?
Okay, so I believe the 3 top things on my list would be leadership. We need good leadership in the school, which we have excellent leadership in our school district. You need teachers, and we have excellent teachers in our district, so we're doing well. I also, extracurricular activities, I think we need for a good, well-rounded student body. We need to have lots of activities for them, clubs, sports, arts, music, just so the kids can be well-rounded, find their niche in society. For pride, I'm not sure, for me, I'm always proud when I see the marching band in the parade. So that's my own personal, I like to see our students out in a parade, out of town, showing themselves off. And stop there.
All right, thank you. Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you. The top 3 things I think make a successful school, I guess in no particular order. Number 1, I would say our administrators. We need to make sure that our administrators, their focus and their attributes are consistent with our community, the ethics that we hold ourselves to, the morals and the standards in which we cannot ever waver from. And I too agree that our administrators are on point. We need diversity. We need diversity in our hallways, we need diversity in our teaching staff, we need diversity on our fields. It's a very important subject, mostly because when the kids leave this community, they're going to go into a world, and the more we enhance their perspective of a diverse world, I think the more successful they can be. Number 3, I would say, would be community engagement. It's very important that we keep the thumb on the pulse of our community. Those are the people that we work for. Those are the constituents that we have to, I guess, appease and keep happy. And it's important that we know exactly their feelings on things to ensure that we are working consistently with their views as well. To promote pride, I would say that it would be to make sure that all clubs and activities outside the classroom are funded. Let these kids compete, let them have school spirit, let them have the best of everything that we can afford to ensure that they have everything that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Apple.
So to answer this question, as much as I was trying not to, I got to put my teacher hat on. And I guess old habits die hard. And because a school we're in the kid business, and the goal of a successful school is to have successful students. And when we think about it that way, I like to think, and I would like all schools to strive, but especially Delaware Academy, I think it does a pretty good job, actually, that success looks like a lot of different things. For some kids, success is more than test scores. For years, I stood at board meetings and invited the board to remind themselves that, success looks more than test scores. Ask the old board members from a long time ago, they'll tell you I did that every year. And, through project-based learning, through a variety of clubs, through drama, through music, sports, all of those things, but even within the classroom, a successful school really is measured to me by how successful students are in the short term and, more importantly, in the long term. And creating all those different pathways to success is what I think the goal of any school should be, and I definitely think it is here. I know it is the goal of Mrs. Zimmerman, because she and I talked about it, actually. When it comes to pride, and now I'll put my board member hat on, I guess, if I were a board member and showed pride, I would support them. I have to stop, sorry.
All right, Mr. Tucker, you will begin with our fourth question. And this question is, social media plays a large role in which community members often go to post opinions and field information on a variety of topics and issues. Delaware Academy has a board policy that governs use of social media by students and staff. Please describe considerations a board member should make regarding their presence on social media. One more time. Yes. Social media plays a large role in which community members often go to post opinions and find information on a variety of topics and issues. Delaware Academy has a board policy that governs use of social media by students and staff. Please describe considerations a board member should make regarding their presence on social media.
So I think this one will be sort of short. I believe a board member on social media should be following any policy that they've already dictated for everyone else to follow. And then maybe even more so, the community is looking at board members in a different way. And for a board member to post anything that's inappropriate would be just obviously inappropriate. And that's, they just need to follow the policy, to lead by example.
Thank you. Mr. McCarthy. Yes, if you would like to repeat the question. Social media plays a large role in which community members often go to post opinions and find information on a variety of topics and issues. Delaware Academy has a board policy that governs use of social media by students and staff. Please describe considerations a board member should make regarding their presence on social media.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a great subject that we could spend probably a lot longer than a minute and a half on. But I think the important thing here for me is that when someone serves on a board, when they speak, they're not so much speaking for themselves anymore, especially if it's an issue that's regarding the school or something that the board is working on. They're speaking for the entire board. So professionalism is a must. There's no place in this role for someone to go onto social media and gossip or spread misinformation or vent or any of that type of conduct. It's just not appropriate, and probably why there is a policy about it. So I do have social media. I laugh when I see some things, especially when it's misinformation, because it just twirls things up into a dust storm that really doesn't need to happen. It's better to come to a meeting, listen to the facts, digest the facts, and then form your opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good, you don't need to repeat it, I got it. So social media is a tool just like so many other tools, and it can be used for great, information sharing, or on the flip side, some misinformation sharing, very often loaded with emotion. In terms of a board member's role, I think it's important to just have a safe, bet that you just sort of, or kind of look at it, when in doubt, don't post, or that if you're going to click a like, it's just a support in school. So I'm thinking, if I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see a varsity club, somebody won a tennis tournament or something, I can click like on that, and that should be okay as a board member. But in terms of engaging in debate or conversation through social media, I just think is inappropriate and, well, for lots of people actually, but there's also a freedom, so.
Thank you.
Well, I agree that, as a board member on social media, that you have to be very professional about it. Even if you are not engaging in anything that is school-related or board-related, even in your personal postings and content, whether it's pictures on vacation or just pictures in general of anything personal, you know, yes, this is a volunteer job, but in the ASDA community, you're always a board member. You have that hat on all the time, it doesn't go away. And something you may think is perfectly harmless that you posted about yourself or, you know, personally, might offend somebody and might think is inappropriate. So I think, you know, I think you just have to be, I don't know, if I don't really post on social media, so I think that's the safest thing to do, actually. But yeah, that's how I answer that. Thank you.
Mr. McCarthy will begin with our next question. And the question is, as you begin your term as a board member, what will be your top 3 priorities and how will you approach them?
Thank you. I think as you come into a new job or a new setting, which is what this is, you would be doing yourself a disadvantage to come in with a hit list. To say, I'm going to get in there and these are the 3 things that I'm going to work on. You know, these are the 3 things that I'm going to lay the law down about. I think that you're really selling yourself short if you do that. But some ideas that I definitely hear people talking about in the community that I would definitely want to bring up would be expanding our pre-K program. I think that we need to make it so that every child that wants to come to a pre-K program at Delaware Academy has that opportunity and that it's no longer a lottery system. I definitely would love to see an after-school program for children that are struggling with their academic achievements. Since COVID, I know my kids are still struggling, and the new way that we teach the children, I have trouble helping my 4th grader with his math. I've never done tape diagrams and stuff like that. So I would definitely like to see an after-school program where we could let kids go with a teacher, a professional. The teacher would be able to maybe make a little extra money, and that they would be able to get their homework done. I also would like to maybe explore bringing late buses back. I know there is some people that have talked about struggling with transportation and extracurricular activities, and that would be something I would like to explore. Thank you.
My 3, I don't know that you would call them really initiatives, but my 3 goals for myself are to listen, learn, and share. And what I mean by that is, as a new board member, I have a lot to learn. Any new board member would tell you that, I'm sure. And so there's a lot to learn in that respect. But on this, at the same time, because of my experience of 35 years at DA with all those different hats, I really do think that I have a variety of perspectives to share. And I think that would be useful. It's part of, I think, why I'm running. When it comes to actually an initiative, I really would defer to the administrators and to what's already being discussed on the board. I don't have any, okay, this is what I want to do here now. Let's see what's going on now. Are there initiatives that we are in the midst of that we haven't seen come to fruition yet? And if so, how do we make that happen? And so that's what I would do, is learn and share. Those are my.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, of course. As you begin your term as a board member, what will be your top 3 priorities and how will you approach them?
Well, I don't think, me personally should come with my own agenda, but I think one of the biggest roles of a board member would be fiscal responsibility. especially when proposing a budget for the taxpayers. Another one would be setting goals involving student achievement. And a third would be basically to, I think we do a pretty good job, but we can always improve in areas of communicating, informing, and involving all the stakeholders in decision-making and things like that. So those would be the top three.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker.
You would say that I would agree with Kevin that we're not really coming with an agenda and priorities per se, that we're going to act out as a single individual. Things that I think of that are important that as a board member we should be prioritizing would be the teacher shortage that is nationwide and how we as a school district can entice good teachers to come to our district, want to be part of our school district. Personally for me, I've been the Kellogg Fund is very important to me. It's been around since I was in school. It's a gift that our district should cherish, and it should be, we should be making sure that it's around for future generations. It's something that's very unique to our school district. And keeping our school up to date so that our students are on the cutting edge. The world is an incredibly competitive place, and our kids need to be competitive when they leave this district.
Thank you. And Ms. Avila will begin with our final question. And the question is, describe how you view the relationship between the Board of Education and administration as a governance body for our district. Yes, of course. Describe how you view the relationship between the Board of Education and administration as a governance body for our district.
I'm not positive I understand the question, but I'm going to give it a shot. I actually really don't understand the question, so I don't know if you're asking what is it right now or what should it be.
If I can help clarify.
Please do.
Yeah. So it talks about, think in terms of roles. So
Got it.
Board of Education relationship to
Yeah.
administration,
Yeah.
how do they work together as a governance body
Yeah.
in organizing the district?
Yeah. So I see the board as really just, I know I'm oversimplifying it, but I do know the three basic jobs of the school board. They are to hire, fire, and supervise the superintendent, to approve a budget, and to set policy. Within those three different items, especially the set policy, that's where sometimes board members might get into a little bit more nitty-gritty of what's going on in the school, things like that. They do need to be kept apprised of what's going on, and that's the responsibility of the superintendent and the principals, as seen every month at their principal reports and the superintendent reports at the board meeting. So I think it's a really important one, but I think the role of the board should be to let them be administrators and that's just my own personal view.
Thank you. Ms. Shepherd.
Thank you. I think it's one of the key roles between the relationship between the Board of Administration is, I think, together, I think it's a main board role, but with the guidance of the superintendent, one of our biggest things we should do is establish mission, vision, and goals. And I think those can't be separate. The administration and the board has to work on those together. I would like to think of us as a team. It's going to be hard to work together if the administration and the Board of Ed is not a team. However, the superintendent should be providing leadership to the board and be a resource for us. But ultimately, we're the ones that adopt policy and adopt the budget and things like that. So it has to be we have to have a good relationship, with each other, or it's not gonna work out.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker?
One more time.
Yes. Describe how you view the relationship between the Board of Education and Administration as a governance body for our district.
So the Board of Education makes policy. We do the superintendent's evaluation, and we work and pass the budget. And administration runs the school on a day-to-day basis. We need to stay in our zones to have a good functioning school district. And I think just mutual respect for each other is kind of where that ends.
Thank you. Ms. Bernard?
I know you want to say it one more time.
Describe how you view the relationship between the Board of Education and Administration as a governance body for our district.
Thank you. This is a great question, especially to end on, because it's really the crux of who you pick. I go to just about every board meeting, and I am amazed at how well our current board and administration works together. To watch them go through a meeting and present the information and deal with issues is truly comforting, as not only a taxpayer, but as a parent in this district. So that's what I think it is. Yeah, we have official roles, and of course there's lines we don't cross, but for me, the board is about providing all the tools and finances to the administration to ensure that we have every opportunity available to our children, and to ensure that we have everything that we need to ensure that our teachers are well taken care of, so that they don't want to leave our district, that we keep talented teachers here, that we keep talented aides here, that we, and staff. The board also develops policy. That's extremely important, and ensures that the administrators are following their policy. And of course, they have to act in a fiscally responsible way. Everybody can't have everything, so it's our job, or it's the board's job, to kind of determine what is important enough to the community to get into the budget, and what things aren't. And from what I'm seeing, our current board and our administrators are doing a wonderful job of all those things. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and we're now going to move into our closing comments. Each of you will have 2 minutes to respond, and we'll begin with you, Ms. Shepherd.
Don't start the timer.
No, you're okay.
Oh my god, I didn't prepare these.
I guess I would just like to say that I've enjoyed the 3 years that I've been on the board. I've been in education for over 30 years, and in my career, I've probably been to hundreds of board meetings. And I guess I thought I actually knew what they did behind the scenes in executive session, and no, I didn't. So I've learned a lot. I have a lot more to learn. I'd like to continue staying on the board. I think I have a lot to offer with all the different hats and roles that I have in my life. I'm very proud of some of the things that we have done in the 3 years that I've been on the board. For example, one I mentioned already is creating a position for having a student representative. He's actually a board member on our Board of Education, and it's been so beneficial for everybody in our district. The business partnerships that we have with students actually getting jobs in the community as part of internships and partnerships. Pre-K has been established, and I agree with Nate, I would love to expand on that, and I hope we can. This is not new, this is a very old program that we have had, but the DASH program, the health-based clinic that we have, I'm so thankful to this day that we still have that and maintain that. It is a blessing to everybody in our district. That clinic is is not just open during the school year, it's open during spring breaks, it's open during summer time, whether it's at our school or a neighboring school, so it's always there for kids that need it. Another thing that I take pride in being on the school board is that we really want our facilities, like the buildings and everything, to be up to date, not run down, to keep them modern. And if any of you have not been in the bathrooms in this hallway, you need to go in there. They are gorgeous. They're just beautiful, and they're not anything that's going to be outdated soon. They're just beautiful. So I think we take pride in everything, and I love being a part of it. Thank you.
I've been on the board of education for the past 3 years and would like to continue to serve my community in such a manner. As a business owner, I have the knowledge and the ability to make important financial decisions, and I understand the ramifications behind those decisions. I've been a strong and vocal supporter of the art and music department of our district, and will always advocate for our students to have full access to these departments. As a city board member, I often find myself with a different view on many topics. I believe this is healthy in its own way. I will continue to question how, why, how much, as well as to try to represent all sides. I will not simply be a yes or no vote. I will want all the information that I can possibly gather before making such a decision. Many of the choices that I've made as I've been on the board have been, many of the decisions that I've made are based on my knowledge of our area, our demographics of our community. I've tried to be a voice for many that are not heard, and I do not have a personal agenda. I just want to be a voice of reason. I would like to be your voice of reason, and I would appreciate your vote on May 16th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all the other candidates for, one, running and caring, and two, for participating in this event. It's definitely not easy getting up here and speaking. I also want to thank the two incumbents that sit up here tonight for their service thus far and also for seeking re-election. We're really fortunate to have 4 very qualified candidates, so we're very truly blessed in that fashion. Also, thank you to the community that came out and the ones watching from home. There's no better time to get involved, and this vote is a piece of that puzzle. There's a lot of things going on up here at the school. We have the school board budget vote, or the school board member vote, we have the budget vote, we're talking about athletic mergers, we're talking about a capital project, just to name a few. So getting involved and educating yourself on these topics is extremely important. We can truly excel through knowledge, and the best place to get the most accurate information is at the school board meetings and the community forums. It's important to pick leaders with courage, and ones with an unshakable demeanor, to ensure that our district continues on a path of success. We must ensure that the legacy of this school continues for generations to come. We must also pick leaders that can project where this school district should be in the years to come, and have the foresight to make the changes necessary to ensure our children have the most and the best opportunities available to them. I had a teacher, not teachers, they used to leave me with thoughts, so I'm going to leave everybody with a thought. Leadership should not be a popularity contest, but it should be a measure of 3 things: humility, credibility, and courage. I ask for your vote.
And I'm going to pick up on that quote. What are those 3 things? Yes, please. Humility, credibility, and courage. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I have been very blessed working at DA for 30 years, many years. Whether it's my DA, my sixth grade team, the faculty team, the district team, or just being in the community. DA has given me lots of freedom to do some pretty crazy things with students over the years. And we're going way back here. And being part of a board of education, I would love to be part of a team that fosters, enables risk-taking, productive risk-taking, and exploration of all new areas. Talking about the building project, everything that revamping of the old tech wing, I think would provide some great opportunities, things that we probably haven't dreamed of yet. And so that's what gets me excited when I think about potentially being a board member. I would like to think that I have courage. I would like to think that I have, what's the word? Credibility, yes. And I would like to think that I have humility, all three of those. My strong opinions about something may not come across as humble, but they are. Okay? And I'm doing okay? Yeah. And so I think that we have a lot of challenges at DA, but we also have a lot of great unexplored opportunities, and that's what excites me.
Thank you.
Oh, was I it?
Yes. And thank you all for taking the time to be a part of this event. Election day will be May 16th from noon to 8 p.m. And we wish you all the best of luck in the upcoming election. Please welcome back our Superintendent, Kelly Zimmerman.
All right, and thank you to Tyler Brandon, such a great student representative. At this time, this does conclude our Meet the Candidates night. We will be actually opening our Board of Education meeting tonight and immediately convening into what I promise will be a short executive session. So if our current Board of Education members could just take their seats in the front. Mrs. Kelly is sharing tonight, and she will bring us into an executive session as Mr. Schultz comes up and prepares for our budget hearing, which will follow immediately. We are not going to stop the live stream for those watching at home, but please be patient with us and we will reconvene shortly. We do invite our candidates who are not current members to please stay for our budget hearing tonight. Thank you.
We're gonna jump into executive session, but Bruce needs to move over. Sorry, I wasn't clear about that.
Yep. I'd like someone to make a motion so that we may convene into executive session. Sean? Second. Thank you. Okay. Makes a mention that no other board candidates have taken a petition, so we are with our four stellar candidates. And our next regular board meeting will be Monday, May 22nd at 6 p.m. in the high school media center. Thank you.
Put this over here too.
Just whenever you're ready.
What's this? What is this?
Well, will you put that mic in front of the speakers and make sure it's on?
Okay. I thank everyone for coming, those here present and those who are watching from home. I'd like you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
justice for all.
justice for all.
Just introducing budget presentation. So we'll open the presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
I got you.
We are opening our budget presentation with Mr. Kerry Schultz and our superintendent, Kelly Zimmerman.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Much better? All right. All four in attendance, 6. All right. I always joke, sometimes I look at this, 4 members are already supposed to be in attendance, so the 6 additional people was 6 more than probably like, I've had a few of these where I've had no one. So I thank you for coming. So this is number 17 for me as far as presenting an annual budget, and some are easy, some are tough. This one, I would say, was probably on the easier side, thank goodness. But there's some pretty tough ones. I always tell people what I always gauge on how much sleep I lose, and I didn't lose that much on this one. So I would say it was a fairly well managed as far as from the state level and all the way down to the administration and the school level. So I promise to be about 20 minutes, all right? Time me, there's still sunlight out there, and we need to get up and join us. Time, good. All right. Start clicking through. With everything, we start every presentation with a vision, mission, and district goals. And I would say that this is probably, and Kelly always asks this in her presentations, the administrators do the same thing. This is key when building a budget. I would say that right out of the gate. We start this process late October, early November, and we go all the way until the third Tuesday of March or May every year. So it's always sitting down with administration staff. We go right from staff putting in their budget requests all the way down to sitting with administration, looking those over, and then putting them into the budget. On top of that, we have 356 budget lines total for a 20 million plus budget. So there's a lot of time that's spent crafting those numbers, trying to get them as good as possible, making sure we get to include new initiatives into the budget each year. And at the same time, there's a small part of that budget that's like the crystal ball. I talk about it a lot. That is really trying to figure out what the weather's going to be this time next year or this time next December to see how much heating fuel we're going to need. So some of it's projections, some of it's actually really detailed costs. We use this a lot. I would say the third bullet from the bottom, Delaware Academy will evaluate and provide necessary resources to achieve our mission in an informed and fiscally responsible manner. That's really what we're doing with this budget. So a lot of times the budget is just basically presented by numbers. We like to kind of start off and talk a little bit about how the budget comes about, or how we put together the budget, and what kind of the constraints that we have going in. So we were creating a budget that is fiscally responsible to taxpayers, creating a budget that aligns with the program and instructional needs and goals, and then creating a budget that's long-term. I think that's probably one of the bigger things that we try to look at. Having great things one year and not the next is not a budget that is going to be sound, and it's not going to push the needle, what we say usually. So we try to keep that so it's consistent. We don't want a budget that's fluctuating a lot as far as revenue and expenses. So we look at that a lot. If we're gonna put something into the budget, can we sustain it? So the goals for this budget hearing is basically go over the process. We'll talk a little bit about, both on the revenues and expenditure side, what makes a balanced budget. But on top of that too, talk about some of what's been enacted in this budget. Every year there's a little bit something different that the state puts together that we either benefit from or we don't. And this one, there's a couple things that we're looking at that we're kind of excited about that we hope come to light. So budget basics. We have to build a balanced budget every year. We can't just build a budget that's based on revenue, bottom line, profit margins. We're not in that business. We present a budget that has expenditures on one side and revenue on the other. And the big thing is always, what is the tax levy? Really, when you come to vote on the budget, you're voting on the budget. The question that always comes up is, what is the tax levy though? So we end up in this situation where we have a tax cap. I always talk about this as a 2% tax cap. I talked about it in the media quite a bit. It's not a true 2%. Districts actually can get basically an exclusion for some of the long-term debt that is on their books. And I've never really seen, I've seen a tax cap coming in too very rarely. A lot of times it's much higher. We've been in that situation quite a bit. Last year, I think we were about a little below 2. We've had some years where we were almost 3%. This year, we're at 2.13. Basically, that's all that's telling us as a board is that to get a simple majority, you can raise up to 2.13% of tax revenue. Anything above that, you need a supermajority, which is 60%, which becomes a little bit more difficult. There's not many districts that do that. A lot of times they like to go to the cap. We here have not really done that much. We were at 1 year, I think it was my second year here. We had this negative tax cap, which I'm not going to explain anymore because it's very difficult, but we had to go with 0. And even just to get to a 0% tax cap or tax levy, which we weren't going to raise any additional monies, we had to get a 60% supermajority. This year we're not looking at that, so I'm not going to go into detail about it. Like I was saying, we have revenues, we have expenses. The revenues, basically, there's not a ton out there. I mean, we don't have production lines. We don't have the ability to cut staffing in one day. We don't have the ability to stop production or create new widgets. I would say that in some of the meetings. But basically, we're about 6 or 7 items. We have tax revenue, state aid, pilot revenue, which is basically any businesses that are coming into the area, they can form a pilot program or a pilot agreement. They're basically not on the rolls yet, not on the tax rolls, but they're paying a portion of what their assessed value is. That becomes a separate revenue stream in taxes. The only problem with those, they're great revenue streams. Eventually they come off of that program and get back on the roll. And in that way, the district actually has less tax to kind of, you don't really get to raise any more and you lose that revenue stream. We have actually 2 businesses that have pilots right now, pilot programs, and they account for about $250,000 of revenue each year. We have a few of the small ones coming off, probably $5,000 to $6,000 in 26, 27, and the larger of those coming off in 31, 32. Others made up of, we have any kind of penalties on tax payments if they're late, that's considered an other revenue. We have another one under other that's called high tax aid. It's aid given to districts that, best way to explain it is they look like they're rich, but they're not that rich. And we kind of run into that situation with the fact that our combined wealth ratio looks like we're wealthier than what we really are. So there's a little bit there to offset the tax burden to the taxpayer, about $183,000 a year. We have reserves, which basically is just an extra savings account. You have additional funds at the end of the year. You have the ability to put that money away into certain areas. We talk about the debt reserve a lot. The debt reserve is there to offset any debt coming through in a following year. We have workers' comp reserves. Those reserves help in cases of workers' comp cases that the district is unaware of and has to pay out. There's other reserves to help offset any kind of TRS or retirement expenses that rise throughout the year because of the market. But those are really there as safety nets. But we do utilize them to help offset the budget. Without them, the tax revenue or the tax levy would be much higher than it is now. So just a quick breakdown. And I would say, I did an analysis last week of these numbers, and these numbers have barely changed. They probably changed about maybe a half a percentage point or a quarter percentage point each year. The revenue stays pretty steady. We're basically about 50% almost, 47% on taxes and 43% on state aid. We do rely a lot on state aid. We're not unlike any other district. So when we're looking at a 20 million plus budget, we're looking at 9 million and probably a 9 plus million in taxes. And then the rest is, like I said, pilot revenue. We have the other miscellaneous reserves, 2.2%. The pilot revenue stayed pretty much the same throughout the last 3 years. State aid, I'd say, like I said, about half a percentage point has gone down and gone back up in certain years. And then fund balance is 3.7%. So we take a portion of our savings from this year and help offset the budget. That hasn't changed that much. I would say reserves has changed more because we did have a larger pilot that came out of the program about 3 years ago. And that raised that percent, it was about 1.2% probably 4 years ago. So we're now up to about 2.2. The first thing that we try to look at when we're building the budget, we build the expense side first. That's pretty crucial because we don't have state aid runs by then. We don't get state aid runs usually until January or February. And this is basically kind of the starting block to say, okay, what is the state willing to give us right now? And then what do we have to come up with, either taxes or reserves? I know it shows a deficit this year of 155,000 total, but those numbers are a little skewed. The reason why we see such a large deficit is building aid dropped by almost 500,000. And it's not just because we had debt that fell off. They're not gonna give us aid on it, which is understandable. So therefore, that's all we're losing. In general, we're actually gaining some aid in some aid categories, especially foundation aid of almost 200,000. And then in some of the categorical aids or expense-driven aids, they're giving a little bit more on those too. We've also spent more. As we spend more on BOCES, we get more aid back. So again, even if it says a negative 155 at the bottom, that's not true. It's not that we took a huge hit, it's because of that long-term debt that fell off. Budget summary overall, we saw pretty basic increases within the budget summary itself. Like I said, the 380 plus budget lines are contained in these codes here. We saw probably the biggest increase, that would be probably 1,400 codes. We had a lot of BOCES expenses that went up. Not that we're taking advantage of more, it's their costs went up too. So on average, we're about a 3.6% increase overall budget to budget for BOCES. Just to give you an idea, BOCES expenses for the year, they run anywhere from like 2.2 to 2.3 million a year. And that makes up special education, CTE, services that we buy through BOCES, they use safety management. There's also their debt that we pay for their building projects. So there's about 2.3 going into this year. The other larger, we saw some increases in the 1,600 codes. 1,600 codes are made up of basically building maintenance. If you go to Lowe's or anywhere else today, you're going to see that the costs are much more than they were quite a few years ago, or even just a few years ago. So we're seeing some increases in that. Basic contractual increases, just any kind of maintenance or any kind of oversight of management fees. We have a little bit of increase in teaching, but that's also because of additional staffing that we have in this budget. So 6% increase seems kind of high, but it's also additional staffing from one year to the next. That should smooth out next year. And that teaching line also takes into account support services. So non-instructional staff are in that line too. Biggest decrease, or the biggest actually shift, again, is the long-term debt. 31% decrease. We do take on new debt coming in June, but that's based upon this last project that just finished. But the debt that fell off was much higher. And then we'll look at taking on more debt coming down the road, which will have about a 3 or 4 year period where we'll use some of that debt reserve to offset it, but then it'll smooth out again. But I don't see any kind of increases. We're not going to see large increases like we talked about. Especially with debt reserve, we'll be able to subsidize that with the debt reserve. We won't have any debt payments that will increase. Overall, we're looking at a tax levy of 1.25% increase from last year. Last year we were at 1.25 as well. we're seeing a decrease of about 0.1%. So budget to budget, almost stable, and with some additions too. Program expense breakdown, I'd like to kind of break this out real quick just to let people know where the funds, where the expenses are kind of going. Debt service is 6%, just to give you an idea, 2 years ago that was at 9%. Again, we're losing debt, we're taking on some, but it's just not the same amount. Benefits, 25%, that stayed pretty steady the last 3 years. We have a really good healthcare program that's managed very well through BOCES. We're just not seeing, we're not seeing as big of TRS, ERS increases, which is retirement at this time. We may see them down the road if the market continues to, the market's been up and down, I think it's stabilized a little bit. But as banks start to fall and that market starts to drop, you can see increases down the road. And usually that lags about a year. Pupil transportation has stayed around 6%. We're not taking any new runs on, we're not expanding the district at this time, so you're not going to see much of increases there. We also have the same long-term debt on our buses that we have had for quite a few years. We are losing one bus going into next year, so that'll drop a little bit. Building maintenance, we're at about 8%. I would say that was a little bit above 6% 3 years ago. Again, maintenance fees, contractual fees have really increased over the last couple of years. Instructional, mid-40s%, that's about the same. That's really stayed pretty stable. And general support is up to 12%. That was about 11% a few years ago. Again, we're not seeing big fluctuations in any of these numbers. So just a quick snapshot of the budget. The proposed expenses of $21,547, $548, or a decrease of almost $21,000. Proposed revenues exactly the same thing. Again, and now that's a balanced budget. So that's exactly how we built both sides of that budget. Some of the differences I talked about before, contractual salaries, the contractual salary increases, also just basic contractual increases. Our contractual salary increases here range anywhere from 3 to 3.5%. We're not high, we're not on the high end, we're pretty moderate. I would say that we're right in line with other districts. We saw a decrease in energy costs this year, not on the electric side as much, but we saw with fuel, heating fuel, about $1.50 a gallon along with diesel. We lock our prices in every year. So this year we were able to lock in at a pretty good rate. We saw some decreases there. Again, reduction in long-term debt. And then some of the additions, we ended up having some initiatives and some of the budget additions that I'll talk about here. We know that we have a few retirees. We have a middle school science teacher, elementary health PE teacher, AIS teacher, and an LTA. Middle school math, I'm sorry, yes. I don't know. New initiatives, budget additions. We have looking at putting a half-time LPN to work between both buildings to help the nursing offices right now. We have a technology teacher that we're looking for. And we also have an additional foreign language teacher that we'll add to this. And just so you know, all those known retirees are being replaced in this budget. We're not taking any of those out. Quick idea of what the tax levy impact would be for the normal taxpayer. I will say that this is a projection. Every year we always get a few phone calls of people saying, well, my tax levy went up more than you had proposed. And then we have a conversation, and then they end up telling me they put a new garage, on their property or a new barn, and I say, well, that's going to change even more. But we try to give a pretty good projection. A lot of times these numbers are high. I will say that. They usually come in much less, based upon the valuation of the assessments that come into each township. Could be a lot less. Equalization rates can change also. But we have no dealings with that. That's basically the assessor that does it. So a lot of it, we set the rate, they figure out what the assessments are.
You got about 3 minutes.
So again, the spending plan, we got $21,547,548, about $21,500. We have about $21,000 savings from last year, well, negative 0.1%. Again, the proposed tax levy is at 1.25, and our limit is 2.13. We could go to that cap, but the board decided that it would be best to go with 1.25 and give some relief to the taxpayers, which I Very much welcome. Just to give you a quick idea, we did a regional analysis of the districts around here, and Kelly did not want to put their names on the board, so, and I agree with that, that's always a good thing. We are, as far as tax cap goes, they're all over the place, anywhere from 1.8 to a little over 3%. Again, we're at 2.13. Besides the district way at the bottom that has a 0, we are one of the lowest in the regions. We're tied for the second, so 0% tax levy is obviously very difficult sometimes, but we were able to come in at 1.25, which I think is a fantastic number. It gives the district some funding to help offset the budget, and we said we come in one of the lower end districts. So.
Sure, thank you.
I think there's about 30 seconds to spare. So every year when the final state aid runs come out, you may heard the enacted budget was pushed back a few times this year. But we are in receipt of that now. It's always kind of tentative when you are building a budget to put up before your taxpayers when the enacted budget hasn't been finalized. So as soon as that came out, Mr. Schultz and I quickly analyzed that to determine that it did not have a significant impact on any of the decision making or any of the budget as he just presented it for you. But what else is included in enacted budgets? You hear me talk about advocacy throughout the school year and advocating particularly with our representatives on those items, those big ticket items that will have the most direct impact on our district and on our surrounding districts. What did come through, there was a push on both sides in the one House budget for universal school meals. Overall, that did not pass. Universal means universal. But what they did do was allocate another $134 million in New York State to districts that were eligible through the CEP, or the Community Eligibility Provision Program. In order to qualify for that program, your district needs to hit a threshold of about 40% of economically disadvantaged based on what families are reporting on those free and reduced lunch applications. This year we did hit that threshold. Our Director of Food Service, Chris Miller, did a tremendous job trying to engage families and was relentless in her pursuit to get accurate information on behalf of our district. So we did qualify for that program finally, which is huge for Delaware Academy. Universal Pre-K, they only added funding despite our advocacy for districts that weren't already participating in four-year-old programs, which as you know we are. They allocated about another $50 million in additional funds, but that's through those competitive grants only. In order to qualify for those competitive grants built right into the application, you have to demonstrate a significantly higher level of poverty than what we experience here, a certain threshold for students who are English language learners or English as a second language, and then particular needs for families outside of the regular school day that you are prepared to supplement in the district. Again, if you look at just the application, we automatically would not qualify or be as competitive in those competitive grants based on the weighting in those applications. There is a new requirement for health insurance to reimburse school-based mental health clinics beginning in January. That is terrific. As you know, we just have celebrated our 30-year anniversary with school-based health, and we do enjoy a mental health clinic connected with that school-based health center. So that is definitely a win by proxy. They've extended another year the cap on what retirees, New York State public employee retirees. So this helps to continue to address that teacher shortage. It used to be capped, I think, around $32,000 was all a retiree could make. I'm looking at Rose, she might know back there, she's nodding. Okay, 30, then it was 35. Through COVID, they lifted that, they've extended that yet another year, which gives us the ability to have highly qualified teachers known to us come back for long-term sub openings that we might have and be able to grant them a little more respect than what $35,000 might suggest otherwise. So that is also great news. The New York State minimum wage is going to be going up every single year over the next several years. and it's laid out right here for you, starting in January 2024. Interestingly enough, in 27, it will be adjusted on an annual basis at the rate of inflation. They have not shared details on that or formulas surrounding that for us. The last thing that will eventually have an impact on us, you've probably heard a lot in the news about zero emissions for bus reporting, moving to all electric buses. We continue to look at our ability and capability to do that. The state is requiring districts to begin reporting on our infrastructure and our ability to make progress toward that. That's different. Initially, when this came out, they were indicating pretty hard deadlines of when districts would need to transition. But with an increased understanding of the impact, especially in upstate rural New York, they have backed down on that and moved the initial reporting mechanism back another year, and that will just include what our current status at the time is for infrastructure, what it's going to take in our workforce development to achieve that, and other feasibility studies, which we're currently working with NICEAG on. All right, so just to bring it back home, our budget vote is May 16th, and that is a Tuesday, in the same location where it has been the past 2 years, in the middle school gym lobby. So that's the entrance right across from the transportation garage. When you walk in, the middle school gym would be directly in front of you. The agricultural technology wing is on your left, so it's right there. It is wheelchair accessible. There's no way going to a second floor for that. A few other things on the ballot. As you heard, our Meet the Candidates night was tonight. You will be asked to vote for 2 vacancies for a 3-year term out of 4 candidates who are currently running for the board. And then there are 2 other pieces. One is to establish a capital equipment reserve. You heard Mr. Schultz talking about different reserves as part of the overall how we build our budget. Another allowable reserve in New York State is a capital equipment reserve. What that allows you to do is set aside funds for equipment that would not otherwise be aidable in New York State. So equipment that might go into updates in technology to support STEAM and STEM initiatives within the district. This is not the same as voting on the capital project. This is not the capital project vote. I know there's been some confusion about that, and I just don't want that term capital to throw people out. This is a separate reserve. And then, of course, allowing us, we do need voter approval, allowing us to use some of the funds from this current school year to purchase a new school van, which is part of our regular replacement cycle. We will all be present during polling hours to answer any additional questions that you might have, and any absentee ballots do need to roll back into the district by 5 p.m. on the date of the budget vote. All right, and that's it for us. Are there any questions that either Mr. Schultz or I can answer for you?
All right, I need to come forward.
Go ahead, I'll repeat it for you.
Yes, the question is, well, first of all, thank you, first for the candidates that came this evening. I'd like to say thank you for those that came and presented and answered questions after sadly, there are not many people that show up for these things, but I'm always glad to be here. The second question is, in formulating the budget as we go from year to year, we look at budget versus action. Where did we actually come in that overlay? Now, we got to the end of the year and we said, okay, we budgeted this much, and we spent this much. When we go to the next year, how do we look at that, how that budget is presented in that following year? Do we go back to a group and say, well, you know, last year we gave you $1 million and you only spent 800,000, so this year we're gonna start at 800 and build from that.
Yeah, so I think the question that's being asked is, every year as we compare budget over budget, how do we determine what we have left, our actual expenditure versus what was budgeted for?
Yeah.
And then how do we make the decisions on how to allocate that and what to do with that component? We know that in New York State, the Comptroller's Office, the advice there is to try to limit that to 4%. So every year we do look at our actual spending and have those discussions with the board. But I'm going to pass the mic to Mr. Schultz, who can give you more detail on that.
we try to keep it around 95 to 96% spending. And we've had some years where we've actually saved a lot more due to COVID. We had situations where that year how did we do? We actually had areas where we tried to figure out how to get revenues, we thought we were gonna get 20% cost. We ended up actually gaining more revenue than we had originally expected. It had a much bigger fund balance. We did some early numbers last month. We're around 96% spending by the end of the year, which gives us 4%, which is roughly about 800,000. That's what we can legally have off to the side for unassigned fund balance. I go back to that each year again. I don't really start with, I look at that number, I don't start with a number and say, hey, listen, let's try to get to 95 or 96%, because it's difficult, especially with special education, those kind of numbers, those kind of projections, like I was talking about heat, fuel oil. I would say that the goal though every year is to try to be within the 95, 96%. But we actually looked at, so what we did is we looked at the ability to not go to a 2.13%. We took some things out of the budget, buying them this year, the van is one of them, and that's using some of this unexpended surplus.
So the carryover from year to year was basically about 4%.
That's the goal, yeah, exactly. That's because the 4% is the unassigned.
That's what the state allows. We
Right.
actually have more than that after we put it other places.
So if we have more than that, then we sit with the board, we discuss it, we talk about those reserves again. And that's kind of where we're at. We usually sit down, I would say the debt reserve is probably the one that we kind of focus on the most, because as we build projects, that we talk to the taxpayers, yes, it is taxpayer money, it's not additional taxpayer money that we're looking for these projects. So again, we're not having those fluctuating budgets. Without that debt reserve, you wouldn't be able to maintain a 1.25, you would have to inject a lot more as far as the tax base on that, probably 2 to 3%. So.
The other question was on the buses, the electric buses. We formatted or formulated a plan to get to that point with the current bus structure that we have, so we're going to be like aligning that as we go forward. I mean,
So he's asking
it's like
is
2 years, like 25, we got to start moving that way.
So Will's asking if the district is moving in any direction as far as infrastructure and what we need to get ready for these electric buses. We're actually working with NYSEG right now. So there was money that was given to all the suppliers, I would say, the electrical companies, that they were able to go out and do studies. So we will start, the study won't start until June. And it'll take about 4 to 6 months. And they'll look at everything from routing to infrastructure currently to see what kind of power that is locally, if there's even enough to get to the building, look at the regular infrastructure of the building itself, the bus garage, and then they'll give us an update and basically a whole plan to be shared with the Board of Education. They'll look at things like, okay, so if it takes you 14 buses now to do it, it's gonna take you 20. And 25 is it's actually further out than that. So we're kind of safe at this point. There's absolutely no way we could even fathom doing that in 2 years. There's one school locally that's bought a bus. It was $350,000, and I think they won't get it till October. It's one bus. So the production lines aren't even capable of putting out, I think the number right now is 50,000 school buses in New York State.
Can I piggyback on that
My
question?
last question was on the ERS funding, the COVID dollars that we expended, all those dollars, and
You're talking about ESSER funding, that was the federal funding stream, we had 3 grants, the first was gears, and then it was ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. ESSER 2 has been spent, we were probably about 70,000 shy of spending that. We'll look at that over the summer, probably buy some technology with it to wrap it up, because it has to be spent by the end of September. ESSER 3, we have roughly about $500,000 still there. But we still have programs that we're looking at either in the summertime or throughout the next school. So that has to get spent in September of '24. So we do have some funds.
Can I ask you, sorry, go ahead, are you still doing questions, Will?
Good? No, just, are you all set, Will?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about, so I understand the electric companies through the state doing like infrastructure as far as electrical and all that, or tech, but is anything happening, or is it even feasible for a rural district like ours that has to go as far as we do and on the roads and things that we have to do? Is it even feasible to ever go electric? Is there studies on that?
That's the key word, is feasible. So what NYSEG and other electric providers are engaging in right now are called feasibility studies. And so we're giving them district data on our particular district as one of several districts to inform these feasibility studies. Those studies then, compiled with efforts that are being made through NYSERDA, will go back to inform the state on feasibility and that we're considering that progress toward these requirements. Then that will inform the overall timeline and whether that continues to get pushed back. So I would not advise purchase of a bus at this time because we have nothing to support that. Nor do we know that that is a requirement or how far off that will be before that technology really becomes, defunct. So that's exactly it, Kim. We're engaging in feasibility studies first to inform next steps and timeline.
So it's more, so I guess I want to make sure I understand correctly. So it's more than them just saying, oh, to put the electrical capacity here in this district to hook up the buses or make sure they can run. They're looking at, like, we have to go up this mountain to get kids and we have to go 45 minutes. They're looking into that.
Yes, there are numerous factors that they are looking into that inform the feasibility. Not just the Delaware Academy, but throughout this whole section of the state and the capacity to be able to support that initiative.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, that concludes our budget hearing. Thank you so much for your participation. I'll turn the meeting back over to Trustee Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz.
Are there any board members who would like to comment? John?
I would just encourage the public to come out on May 16th and support the budget and voice their support for their chosen candidate.
All right, echo that. Please vote yes for her budget and we're great candidates, so we'll see.
James? Kim? I would just like to say, reiterate, please do vote. I think we have worked very hard to put this budget together. Just a little clarification, you'll notice that there's going to be a Proposition 1 and a Proposition 2. One will be for the capital reserve, the second will be for the new van. Please don't feel like, oh, I voted for my board members, I voted for the budget, I'm done. You have two propositions that we'd like you to vote yes for. And I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
James?
I'll second.
Kim? Thank you. So moved.